Everyone in Ponyville knows about Fluttershy, how she is a loving and caring friend, how she is the element of kindness, and how she cares for and helps animals, big or small. But when you go to her cottage and she doesn't answer when you knock, don't think that she's out somewhere, finding hurt animals or hanging out with her friends. That is exactly what she wants you to think. This true story tells you what she has been doing and doesn't answer your knock at the door. It was a bright and sunny day in Ponyville, and Fluttershy was helping a lost bear find his way back to his cave. It took them a few hours, but Fluttershy's mission was a success. She had found his cave, recognizing the claw marks where she had sharpened his claws. "Over here! You found your cave!" yelled Fluttershy, although barely audible. But the bear only just heard her and went to Fluttershy. The bear hugged her, because he was glad to be back at his home. Fluttershy then said her farewells and headed back home. When she got home, however, she noticed that her door was open. Fluttershy was beginning to get angry, as she hated ponies snooping around her home. She walked inside and saw Twilight standing there. Fluttershy's temper quickly disappeared, and Fluttershy asked, "Can I help you, Twilight?" "Yes, I was wondering if you had some tips on how to feed the Octolicious," asked Twilight. "Well, I guess you—" Fluttershy was cut off by a scream coming from Fluttershy's basement. "What was that?" asked Twilight, suspicious. Nothing at all," forced Fluttershy, hoping that Twilight would ignore the scream. "I'm gonna go and check it out," said Twilight. And with that, Twilight went to the door that led to the basement and opened it. She started walking down the stairs, and when she was halfway, she heard soft sobs coming from the door that led into the basement itself. Twilight started running down the stairs, and when she kicked the door open, she was shocked by what she saw. Fluttershy's pet Angel Bunny was using small scalpel to slowly cut off the cutie marks of Vinley Scratch, who seemed almost dead, as if some type of anesthesiac drug. "It's called fentanyl. It's about 75 times more stronger than morphine," said Fluttershy now behind her, as if reading Twilight's mind. That was when Twilight noticed a fentanyl patch on the other hind leg of Vinley Scratch. Fluttershy walked beside Twilight, who stood and stared with horror as Angel Bunny started to cut Vinley Scratch's eyelids off. Blood seeped into Vinley's eyeballs, making her eyes red, even more red than before. Fluttershy, however, stared with pride as she watched her pet slowly kill the wub-loving pony. Fluttershy stood beside Twilight with a manic smile as she got ready to stick a fentanyl patch on Twilight's neck. "This is what happens to ponies who go into my basement uninvited," she said as she stared at Twilight with eyes like the devil, and she quickly stuck the patch into Twilight's neck, causing her to pass out and fall onto the floor. "Now you shall experience the pain that Vinley is going through." Fluttershy picked up Twilight from the floor and strapped her onto a pole in the center of the room, using a grapper tape to secure the rope she was tying Twilight up with. About 2 hours later, Twilight woke up. It took her a while to realize where she was, and when she saw Vinley Scratch's dismembered and gutted body, she knew exactly where she was and threw up. "Ah, good, you're awake," said Fluttershy, who was just sitting out of Twilight's line out of sight. She stood up, picked up her scalpel, and went over to the front of Twilight. She started brushing her purple cheek with the blunt side of the scalpel, intending and succeeding to put fear into Twilight. "Well, but what are you going to do to me?" asked Twilight, her voice shaky from what she saw earlier and what she thinks Fluttershy might do to her. "Make your death as slow and painful as possible. That's what I'm going to do," said Fluttershy, chuckling at just the thought of cutting Twilight open. Fluttershy flipped over the scalpel over to the sharp side and started skinning Twilight's cheeks. The screams of pain coming from Twilight was music to Fluttershy's ears, and after a few minutes of slowly skinning Twilight's cheek open, Fluttershy finally saw Twilight's teeth through the hole in Twilight's cheek. Fluttershy then worked on pulling Twilight's teeth out, causing the scalpel to cut off pieces of gum just to get to the roots of her teeth. "You have very beautiful teeth, Twilight. Too bad they're coming out of your mouth," said Fluttershy in a crazed voice. Then she stopped after pulling 6 teeth out and started to cut into Twilight's eggshells, causing blood to leak out onto the floor and form a pool of blood. "Ah!" screamed Twilight, feeling every bit of pain that Fluttershy put her through. "Shut up!" yelled Fluttershy, and she cut off Twilight's lips off. "See, now I have to sew your mouth shut. I know I could just tape it shut, but I like sewing, and I did say I was going to make this slow and painful as possible," said Fluttershy, faking an annoyed tone, and she went over to the table on the far side of the basement to get the needle and twine. She then went back to Twilight and put the twine through the needle at the end. She then put the needle up to where Twilight's lips used to be, pulled the mouth together, and sewn the lips shut. She struggled at first, all because the blood was making her lose grip, but then she got the hang of it and slowly shoved the needle through her mouth. She finally finished and looked at her handiwork. "Well, I think I did a pretty good job, seeing that I kept on losing my grip," chimed Fluttershy, and with that she picked up the scalpel again and continued to work on Twilight's eggshells. After she was done, she brought up the Twilight's horn and started to cut it off. As soon as she got halfway, however, she stopped cutting, grabbing the horn and pulled on it, causing her horn to crack under the pressure. After a bit more pulling and yanking, the finally came off with a satisfying snap. Fluttershy used the horn to brutally hack off Twilight's ears, making sure that she could feel every hack and slice. "All this cutting and hacking has made me hungry. It is sure hard work, don't you agree, Twilight?" she said as she went to her kitchen to make some muffins. 30 minutes later, Fluttershy came back down with a visitor. "Look who wanted to visit you, Twilight," said Fluttershy with a glee in her voice. There, perched on Fluttershy's back, was Owlicious. "Oh God, please no. Don't let it be true, please," thought Twilight. But as Owlicious was in fact there, and it didn't look like he was forced to come here either. "Yes, I could see that look on your face. He wasn't forced here. He wanted to come and watch you die," said Fluttershy with a menacing look on her face. She placed Owlicious on the bench, picked up her scalpel, and walked over to Twilight, who was now shaking with fear. Fluttershy put the scalpel against the twine that she used to sew Twilight's mouth closed, and cut it off before Twilight could scream. However, Fluttershy got a hold of her tongue and cut it off, filling Twilight's mouth with blood. Fluttershy tipped Twilight's head forward and made sure Twilight didn't drown in her own blood. Fluttershy then grabbed her tongue, and made Twilight swallow it. "I'm starting to get bored now. Goodbye forever, Twilight." And with that, she shoved her scalpel right into Twilight's forehead, effectively ending her life. Fluttershy then put the scalpel down and got a serrated hunting knife. She plunged it into Twilight Sparkle's belly and pulled down. This action cut Twilight's stomach wide open, and her guts spilled all over the floor in front of her, splashing blood all over the place. Fluttershy then reached in and grabbed Twilight's heart. She ripped it out as hard as she could and cut it open, allowing blood to flow freely from her heart. She dropped the heart, and she started tearing out the rest of her vital organs. "I should do this more often," chimed Fluttershy, as she started ripping out Twilight's lungs. After she ripped out Twilight's lungs, she stopped gutting her. She untied her from the pole, picked up Twilight's body, and threw it over where Vinley's body laid. "Now that she's dead, who am I going to kill next, Ah, yes. Where is Pinkie Pie?"
What's up, my pretties? It's the Lion Queen here. I want to appreciate you all for tuning into this video, and I do appreciate you guys supporting my video by giving this video likes and stuff. If you really enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe if you're new, ring the bell for notifications to when I upload so that way you guys will get updated for whenever I upload. If you want to follow me on Twitter or DeviantArt, feel free to leave a follow on those if you are interested in following me on those socials. If you want to support my backup channel, known as Miss Dark Shigo, feel free to subscribe to it, as a link to that will also be in the About page section. And with that being said, and that being the case, thank you so much for watching, my pretties, and as always, stay pretty.